One's ready. One's ready. Go!
Hey everybody, I got a chance to sit down with retired Chief Master Sergeant Ivan Ruiz, who's a highly respected and decorated pararescueman. We ended up going to Hardy Media Studios. If you'd like to book them, hardymedia.net. Great studio here in Las Vegas. So if you happen to come to Las Vegas, check them out and you need a place to record. They'll hook you up. Now, also, before we go into that, if you go over to onesready.com, over to the right-hand side and you click prep and then go to partner discount, scroll down to the second one and you'll see Attack Elite. Now, Attack Elite, you hit any of those links and it'll take you to their site and a pop-up will come up and give you a generic promo code to get yourself a discount. Now, you're going to want to use this if you're looking for any kind of rocket fins, booties, high volume masks, Alice Ruck, the same Alice Ruck that we use in the pipeline, any kind of swim gear, mesh bags, smartwatches, anything like that. That's who you need to go to because the high volume masks are great, and that's what you're going to need to use to learn how to clear your mask during the pipeline. So that's how you get your discount. The One's Ready discount's not going to work anymore. You got to go to our site, click the link, and it'll give you the discount code that gets generated on the spot. Okay, now enjoy this episode with Chief Master Sergeant Retired Ivan Ruiz talking about the PJ Rodeo that's coming up in June. Highly recommend you guys come watch it. It's open to the public. It's being held at South Point Hotel and Casino here in Las Vegas. You can get all the details or sponsorship if you want to sponsor them at pjrodeo.com. What a rodeo is, and Ivan kind of goes into it here, but to give you a real quick idea what it is it's a series, it's a competition, but it's a series of events that involve physicality and problem solving, things like confined space rescues, jumping, shooting, medicine type stuff, and a lot of physicality stuff. So in the arena at the South Point Casino is where they're going to hold it. Now, obviously you can't jump in there, so they're going to have the jump someplace else and shoot someplace else. But all the rescue type stuff is going to be in there, and it's about 20 to 25 teams competing, and it's going to be a show. I'm looking forward to going and watching it. I'd be lying if I said I didn't kind of want to compete in it. However, I think it might be closed up already. I don't know, maybe. Wonder if I could get somebody together to actually compete with me. Yeah. Anyway, that's what happens when you start thinking about things while you're actually recording. So they wanted, they're looking for donations though, not for the event itself, but for the Pararescue Association and the Pararescue Foundation. These are organizations that help out pararescuemen, help out their families, help out the families of fallen, anywhere between grants and scholarships for school, getting people houses, getting people cars if they've had medical issues, anything like that. And we dive into a couple examples of it in the episode, but please consider donating to them or sponsoring during the rodeo. And that goes for any of the Air Force Special Warfare kind of associations and foundations. All right, on to the episode. Thank you. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. You're in the team room. We are here at Hardy Media Studios, hardymedia.net. If you guys are in the Vegas area and you need a studio to record in, Matthew's got you covered. And he provides all of this and all the lighting and microphones and cameras and recording. So check him out if you're in Vegas. And Ivan Ruiz, retired chief. Appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been on like 2 or 3 times now already?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's your favorite thing to do, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I know you're a big media personality and you really love getting on here and chatting. So like one of the things that you're working on right now, which is kind of why I wanted to highlight this, because I want to bring awareness to, what the PJ Foundation is doing, what the PJ career field is doing as a whole, to kind of honor the fallen, but then also honor those that have served and that are serving still. And we all like a competition anyway, right? So tell us about the PJ Rodeo.
Yeah. So the PJ Rodeo is an event that we hold, within the community, just like all the different communities out there, like the Best Ranger competition. Combat Control has their rodeos, as as well.
Yep.
So we do ours biannually. We it coincides with the reunion, so the community can get together, and at the same time we bring individuals and competitors from all the squadrons, separate squadrons, to compete against each other, do core PJ skills, culminating at the end of the week, and awarding the guys that just do the best.
Yeah. What kind of reward are we talking here?
It's the awards, the actual gifts and stuff that the guys win, the competitors typically win. They've gotten kind of elaborate throughout the years, from some pretty nice armory, got weapons and stuff, to Beaver Fit has produced a couple of like $2,000 packets of like weights and barbells.
Wow,
and
really?
stuff. To a lot of other little gifts. So it's pretty cool. It's definitely a good time for the young guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like I said, I'm big on and this because we've worked together for quite some time now. If you can believe, it's been over 20 years. Yeah. We do like a competition. So like in terms of some of the events that we're talking about, I know that you guys are kind of partnered. I don't know if partner is the right word, but you guys are holding most of the events at the South Point Hotel and Casino in their kind of, I guess their arena is what I call it. It's kind of where all the bull riding and stuff like that, the BMX. So what kind of events are we talking about here?
Yeah, so just throw out the rodeo itself, the competition portion itself is open to the public, right? So it's a good thing that we're doing it there in that venue, because it's large enough to where we could bring in folks. Anybody is anybody and everybody's welcome to come watch these events. So two of the events are going to be offsite, just because there's no way offsite we can facilitate those there at the casino, which are the shooting event and the jump event, right? But once again, those events are open to the public.
Okay, so I didn't know that. That's awesome that you guys are go open that up.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So,
because a lot of people don't get to see that kind of stuff. And I tell you what, I mean, you were at Hobart Field. You could see people whenever the 23rd STS is out there jumping out in the Sound or out into the ocean, and there's ramps packages coming out and a bunch of jumpers. Like people would stop and just
I just watched the whole thing. So and it's good, right? It's really good to once again that we're opening it to the public. Just we could call it for advertisement purposes, right? We wanted to get people interested in the career fields, not just the Pararescue career field, but all the special warfare career fields, and and beyond that, right? Just special operations as a whole, so it just gives them the opportunity to come up and see, who we are, what we do, our different capabilities, and then just to kind of see the culture, really.
Yeah.
Because I think from each community, the culture is very different. So yeah, it's just a good time,
The cultures are very different between PJ and CCT. Just had a message from a CCT the other day that was a little upset with us. So he was given angry CCT vibes.
Oh, okay.
Quite a bit, whereas PJs are a little bit more happy-go-lucky, maybe.
I would say so.
A little granola, maybe.
Yeah, some of them, so yeah, some of us are from the mountains and stuff. So I enjoy being out in the woods. Some of us grew up in the suburbs and they care for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So this is happening in June, right?
Right. So June 16th is, I believe that is the Monday. So that's when everything kind of kicks off. I believe the Monday is going to be the shooting event. And please forgive, I forgot what the ranges are that the event, the shooting event and the jumps are going to happen. But you can log on to pjrodeo.com and go through that site and see where all the events are actually happening. But like I said, Monday will be a shooting event. Tuesday is going to be the jump event, and then Wednesday at South Point Hotel Casino, we're going to do the ropes event, which is going to be a high angle event. Once again, one of PJ core skill, and then Thursday will be the monster mash, which is a monster mash, and then we integrate medical skills into that portion of the competition. So those are all open.
This
to
is
the
a
public.
it's a large event to put on. Then, how many teams you guys thinking you're going to get?
So I think, we try to get between 25 to 30 teams. That's what it's open, but just depending on ops tempo and what's going
Yeah.
on in the world, right? We're not always successful in getting all the teams out. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly. I think we have 20 teams, probably more, competing right now. That's just off the top of my head.
Jeez. And then like sponsorship packages and stuff like that. I mean, what you don't have to be local to Vegas,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Right.
So,
right.
like, are there sponsorship opportunities for people to, not just donate to the Pararescue Foundation, but then also, get their logo on there or whatever? I'm sure there's different tiers of packages.
Yeah. So actually, on the last day on Friday, we have the Special Tactics and Rescue Vendors trade show, right? With that, like you said, we're always looking for sponsors. Once again, it doesn't have to be local. We do need more local sponsors. We're still trying to get as many sponsors as we can. But, through sponsor packages, if guys are interested, or I'm sorry, if companies are interested, they're able to set up, a booth, to represent their company at the trade show. That comes along with sponsor packages. Or, you're more than happy to donate to the Pararescue Association and the foundation, right? So that the association is actually the organization that's hosting the rodeo reunion, and then the foundation is there to support the active guys that are actually I just PJs the community as a whole whenever needed.
Okay, so thanks for clarifying that, because I know, like, I always mess up with the Combat Control Association, the Combat Control Foundation.
Yeah.
I always mix them up and I conflate the two. So
it's super simple to do that. I think everybody still does, except for the presidents themselves of the association.
Yeah,
the
they're like, yeah, you guys idiots.
But for us, at least for us, the easy way to think about it is, the association really is for the guys, right? It's to host events, for camaraderie purposes. And not only that, but, the association absolutely does, help, when we're in need. But the foundation is strictly there, to provide, help to, family members or the operators, whether that's, mental issues, physical issues, school, whatever the case may be, that, that's where they're there for support.
Yeah.
So that's really what the two big differences are.
And that's kind of what's beautiful about it too, is like, no kidding, as I was on the way here, I'm part of this CCT signal chat, and it's, got 1,000 dudes in it, right? That's a whole other thing, because it's toxic as hell. But along with the toxicity of it, there's actually some really positive and good stuff. Like, unfortunately, one of the, I won't say his name, but one of the guys, they just found out that he's got a brain bleed right now. And so, because the association and the foundation presidents and members and board members are all in this chat,
it's an easy way to connect, and like people start like, hey, think about this. Or
by the time I live 15 minutes away from here. By the time I left the house and I saw that, by the time I checked in, they had already started cutting checks to try and help and get people out to the hospital that he's in. And that's the part that's the
beauty of it.
And that's what's amazing. And I already know that we don't do a good way of articulating it. And the PJ Association and Foundation, the CCT Association Foundation, same with the TACP, right? They're not going out there and saying, hey, look at all the things we do, right? So a lot of things just go under the table, and they don't, and it goes missed, and people are like, okay, well, I'm donating money, but
what am I donating to? Who am I donating to? Well, I think you guys have brought it up before. That's just, I think, part of our culture. The whole silent professional thing that just goes along. And I know there's a lot of people may not agree with that anymore, or think that we need to move past that. I think there's a portion of us that, like myself, I think that's just who we are and what we represent. I don't think certain things, good things, should change, but no, but absolutely, it's tough to kind of balance that, right? Because we are, the Special Warfare Foundations and associations are much smaller than what we talk about, like the Navy SEAL Foundation or the Ranger those are ginormous. I mean, those are multi-million-dollar foundations, right? And we're just we don't bring in that kind of money,
right? And when people go, hey, good people that are business owners or wealthy people, or even just your everyday people that throw in $5 or $10 here and there.
Yeah.
When you start going, okay, well, I want to support active duty and veteran. And then automatically you get Green Beret Foundation,
Right.
Navy SEAL Foundation, because the branding is there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the smaller ones just, they don't get that kind of love. So like, please, if you're out there and you're looking to donate, like consider donating to the Pararescue Foundation / association, the CCT one, all of the special warfare ones. So,
Yeah, that'd be great.
yeah. Man, I can't help but notice your shirt.
Oh, well, my wife, my wife told me not to get roped into these conversations with you. So,
Well, I mean,
but yeah,
you wore the shirt, not me.
it's just a
It's just a shirt that says "Make your doc."
It was the one that was on top. That's it. So
There is no way
it
you.
was just the one that was on top.
There's no way you unintentionally wore that.
You know,
But that's fine.
I'm on crutches, so I can't get to the laundry as much as I have to. So it was the only clean shirt I have.
So you don't want to bring it up. All right, cool. I'll deal with that.
My views haven't changed, so you're.
That is bring INDOC back would be your views, I think. Yeah. That's fine. I won't drag you into it, even though I know your wife was like, "What?" So, okay. You said June 16th through I think the 21st, and there's going to be a reunion as well.
Yeah, so the reunion it coincides with the rodeo, so it's just, like it's just an easy way to get as much as much of the community involved, and in one spot, to obviously just enjoy our esprit de corps.
And actually, I'm going to take a step back, and I may be painting you into a corner that you just don't have an example of, but what are some of the things, if you know, that kind of the association and foundation has done with helping out people? Like I know that one of the foundations, I believe is the CCT Foundation or Association, just I think helped secure a house for Justin Day, who is a injured combat controller.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm kind of setting you up because I don't know if you actually know any off the top of your head. But
yeah. So I mean, like I said, the two organizations have kind of different mission sets, right? But I could talk from personal.
Yeah.
When when I had my award ceremony, right? It was the association that funded for my family to fly from England to Herbert. So it's little things like that, right? So when the hurricane went through, the Tyndall area, right, down in Panama City, we had a guy that whose roof was destroyed from that hurricane. So that's where the foundation steps in and helps people out. The association and the foundation help with scholarships, for teammates, and their primarily their children.
Yeah.
I mean, you name it, like when we, if somebody's sick or, if somebody just in general is in need, that's what that's what that funding is for, right? To, keep, the force, mentally healthy and to, just ensure that, guys are in a position, the family is in a position to, thrive and, allowing for that, that guy to get the mission done.
Yeah, I know I can speak to one other, and this is on the TAC piece of the house. One of the guys was at work, got home, and his entire house was cleaned out, and to include his bank accounts because his wife decided to bounce. I mean, she even took the ice cube trays, which is hilarious. It's hilarious because that's a True Lies kind of thing. If you guys aren't tracking Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Arnold, right? What kind of sick bitch takes the ice cube trays? But like she did, and all it took was the TACP, so like just one note to the TACP association saying, "Hey, this just happened. He's got no money for groceries," and they cut him a check for $1,000. Like, there you go. Like, make sure you can feed yourself and your kids.
Yep.
It's no one's going to look out for us as well as we are. And that's why I think for our own community, we've got to make sure that we support these kind of things.
Yeah. And there's a lot of cross-pollination as well, right? Like, I know that the different communities are, supporting one another and their foundations, stuff like that. So it's not just internalized to, just PJs or just combat controls or just TACPs.
Yeah.
Each, organization is supporting the entire group.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you're retired now.
I am.
What are you kind of getting into?
I've been just working for a software company. Recently it's been great. So retirement's good. Yeah.
Do you miss it?
I don't miss a lot.
Really?
I don't miss a lot.
Okay.
I miss being on the X.
Yeah.
All right. I really miss being on the X. I miss jumping. But that's about it,
Yeah.
I don't really, fortunately for me, with my job, I'm still tied in with the guys, so I get to talk and reach out to the guys as much as I need to or want to. But, like we've talked about before, as the longer you stay in, the guys, kind of dwindle away, and, the young guys don't allow you to be one of the guys. So, and then, I've got more important things to worry about, right?
Yeah.
Got 2 kids in college, I've got 2 kids still in school, and I'm just, just trying to enjoy my life with my family, my wife. So,
Yeah, it's a weird thing because I remember on the younger side of the house when I would see some of the chiefs retire and go like, because I still got at the time to include now, still have all this fire inside me. And I'm always like, hey man, how do you tame that? And you're like, and they would always say, well, you don't, man. I'm just like a caged animal that just wants to get out, but I'm caged. I can't, so yeah, that's the thing that I miss is being on the X, going on training trips where we just do some wild stuff. And I don't mean wild stuff as in like going out partying. I mean, just, all right, we're at 25,000 feet in the Arizona desert with some of the terrain features around with mountains, and we're going to jump out and do a hey-ho.
Yeah.
And we're going to navigate, we're going to fly.
Well, that's the work part, right? Like
Right.
you're right. Like I miss, the switch, right?
Yep.
That switch of like, hey, it's like you don't have a choice, right? You're working.
Yeah.
Right. And then the feeling of, when you successfully do it, like, man, that like not a lot of people in the world can do what we do, or what, the communities do. And, I think it's a pretty special thing, and, it's pretty neat when it's a really good feeling when you achieve those things and you do those things. It's indescribable, right? It's perfect example is like, it's when you finish the last event in the pool and the instructors tell you to get on the bus. Yeah. And like you're done for the day, right? Like, but it's like, holy shit, man, I just did something that a lot of people can't do. Right. And it's just this confidence builder that, that you walk away with that just sticks with you. So yeah, I mean, I would say that, like the switch, but I like I said, I think I put that back to like, being on the X, right? Cause, as infilling on a rotary aircraft just waiting to get blown out of the sky, is pretty terrifying, especially when you're, on final and you're just like, like you're 30 seconds out and the aircraft's coming down and you're just like, well, pretty much this is it, man.
Yeah.
It's been great, guys. It's been great. Then the aircraft lands. You're like, okay, well, we're still here. So let's, different phase of operation. Now we're moving, right? And then, and then you got exfil and, everything backwards. And you're just like, all right, we're loading the aircraft, waiting for RPG to just come up the ass of this.
Yep.
Right. And you're just waiting for something to happen on the flight back, but then you just land at base and it's like, it's done. And then you like, all of a sudden you have that decompression that goes through.
Yeah.
But like, it's like those chemical and emotional things that just, run through your brain and your body, those highs that, once again, like, I don't think a lot of people get to experience. But those are hard. Those are definitely things that are tough to forget and easy to miss.
And that feeling of when you are, whether you're with an ODA SEAL team, a PJ internal team, or a CST team, of just kind of you're on a 47, a 60, or in the back of a plane, and you are going into the X or to the offset or something like that, and you're kind of looking around and going like, yeah, man, like this is cool. This is badass.
Yeah.
But two, it's like, man, I do anything for these guys, and these guys do anything for me, and we're about to go do some cool shit.
Yeah.
Like it's intoxicating. It's intoxicating.
Yeah. And that's the special part, right? Like those are, you're right. Those are the things, that I miss. It's, we've talked before, it's the daily stuff that, I'm like, I'm well over it. I'm kind of moved on from it. it's nice, not having to worry about everybody else's problems.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, those were good
Yeah, I
times.
mean,
And
it's the queep stuff, right? And that's what you deal with. Hey, did you see that email? Did you see the tasker that came through?
yeah,
Did you write those awards packages
yeah,
via? So that stuff I don't miss at all.
no, not at all.
Right?
No.
I mean, it's cool to be able to take care of people, right, and help them throughout their career, help them get where they need to go, or the training they need, or prepare them for
That's the good
deployment.
stuff. That's the good stuff of being a manager, right? But it's there's the other side of it that just becomes monotonous and is definitely not fun. We definitely earn our paychecks.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Do and unless people had watched before, they may not know that you're doing rescues in Hurricane Katrina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it's kind of random. I just thought about it, but do you look back on that and did any of those? Because that's a pretty, like, people even now still talk about Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That had to be a moment in your life that was, maybe it was just a job at that point.
No,
or was it like so impactful, or was that a significant point?
Yeah. I mean, I still put Katrina in my top 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was just a really cool event. First of all, just because there was Americans that were in need,
Yeah.
right? Like it was a domestic operation, where there were a lot of people that needed help. But second of all, like it was this. It was almost like it was a reunion, like within 24 hours, there were over 100 PJs, 150 PJs all in one location, acting like PJs,
Yeah.
and just wanting to, just chomping at the bit, to go out and do our job. And, I think we did probably more hoist operations than, was ever done in Vietnam. I think myself and Captain Petra, we hoisted over 240 people, from, homes, from buildings, from, overpasses, and all the guys, all the guys racked up numbers like that, and I think, it was really cool because we set, there was a team leader and then everybody took a brand new guy with them. So, it was just this amazing opportunity to upgrade these young guys and like the experience that, some of these guys had just coming out of the schoolhouse. And then, not only that, just flying around and seeing, I remember seeing the Kentucky guys, in the boats, like all through the city. Like, I remember I forgot who, a lot of the guys were running, doing ATC operations out of the Cloverleaf. I don't remember, like, that one, I forgot, it's like Carlisle Boulevard, I think, somewhere in that area, in New Orleans, but it was called Cloverleaf, and all the operations were funneling in and out of that, and, the control. And you guys were just, taking,
I think that was when they were landing them on I-10, I believe. Is that what it was?
I mean, it's just massive, like, like just overpass with, exits and stuff like that. But I remember it was called the Cloverleaf. I mean, it was just really cool. Like, and it was just, you guys were on 12-hour shifts and just like jobbing out for 12 hours, and the best thing was like, the shifts would get back and like everybody would like funnel in and go have dinner, but it was just like story. Like we wouldn't even go to sleep, right? Because guys were just telling stories about what they were doing and this and that. The helicopters were being shot at, by folks within the city. So I think by like the third night, they had to bring in more marshals and law enforcement to try to calm the city down. But man, it was an amazing experience. Amazing experience. Like I said, it was definitely in my top 5.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. That's going to be a reach back moment for you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's got to be. And I mean, 240 rescues. That's a lot.
That's pretty cool.
That's a lot of time in the air and a lot of time on a hoist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember getting a text from you when you were there and you had happened to fly over Keesler Air Force Base out in Biloxi, Mississippi. And you're like, dude, we're out flying, because this is before attack and all ATAC and all that kind of stuff. So you're kind of, if the helicopter happened to have a tough book put up there with Falcon view and you could see the image, where you're at. But I remember you telling me like, dude, it was crazy because I didn't know where we were flying around. I just know that we were going to an area that had help and SOS on their roofs. And next thing I know, I happened to ask the pilot where we're at, and they said Keesler Air Force Base, and you were like, dude, you couldn't even recognize it.
You couldn't see anything. Yeah, and I remember like there was like Kiza it was just a mess. I remember that because we actually had to drop off a pregnant lady there at an ambulance on base to get transported over to a hospital that was up and running.
Yeah.
So that was the reason why we went to Kiza. I remember that. Yeah.
It's why, because I mean, and there were some great pictures. I think is it Torres?
Yep. Len Torres is.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I went to static line jump mask.
Yeah,
I went to static line jump mask with him. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Great picture. Like I said, man, like everyone from all the squadrons. I mean, and not only like I said the PJ community. Like it was to be honest with you, man, it was really the first time I was incredibly impressed by the 60 crew. Like all the 60 crews. Like the some of the overpasses they were landing on, some of the roads they were landing on. The hoist work that the crews were doing. Like it was how it is, man. When we're young, we tend to be overly critical on other people, but like that was really, I think Katrina was the first time I just realized, man, like that these crews and these pilots and these backenders they were really good at their job.
Yeah.
They were just doing amazing things, so and then it was just good, just really as much hoist work as we do as PJs, it was really good to like actually utilize it that much for that many real world situations. And like I said, man, like the crews and the pilots, man, they were just smart. It was awesome.
Well, and that to your point is kind of what you hear from a lot of folks that are either young, like really young guys, or wanting to go in, and they're not seeing, okay, so all right, we're in Ukraine, but we're not all the way into that kind of thing, and there's a couple other operations that are going on. But guys are worried that from a rescue aspect, am I going to get mine? And we're always saying, yeah, dude, like just look within the last year, you have Thailand. There were the first Air Force person on the ground was a PJ Master Sergeant, the very first one.
Yep.
And and the next one was another PJ. I think he's a senior airman who he was his instructor through the pipeline. So they're teamed up and they're dealing with the, all the government agencies on the ground doing confined space rescue with all these collapsed buildings and helping out. Then you have North Carolina, the hurricane the hurricane in North Carolina, which was devastating. The fires in California.
Yeah.
Like, so
there's always something,
right? There's always going to be a humanitarian aid and disaster relief that is going to occur.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just the nature of the world. I mean, people are always going to need help. So, and like, once again, that was one of the things that drew me to, the PJ career field, versus, becoming an Army Ranger. It's like, I just heard that there was just this broad, umbrella of different things that, PJs do, and, all of these different things that, they get to train and execute in. So it was very appealing to me, right? Like, not just for, having to do tactical stuff, but like having to do, like domestic operations, rescue operations, so it just allowed for, you just get more of a chance to actually do something, right? And at the end of the day, you just, what it is you get more of a chance to help people. So, that's what was very appealing to me. But to your point, I think it's very, so, there's always going to be something, right? And you guys have talked about that on the show before. Like something will always happen. That's just the nature and the history of the United States. So like, I wouldn't worry about that. And even, what I like to tell people is even, you shouldn't get so hung up on that, right? Like chasing the unicorn. Like, you should just, really sit back and enjoy and just realize, man, like, in our communities, we get to do some pretty cool things and we get to hang out, some of the best people in the world. And, we're given a lot of, very important responsibility that, and a lot of people don't get to, live the way we do.
No.
And I think, if you could just sit back and just realize that and just enjoy the day to day of it, I think you'd be, the guys would be much happier.
Yeah. Well, that's what we tell people, at least when I went through INDOC as well. That's what we tell people. It's like, dude, I'm getting paid to work out.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally getting paid to work out. Yeah. Okay. They're trying to make me quit, but I'm still getting paid to work out. Like it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Can't beat that.
No.
I mean, I think, there's funner ways to be paid, but don't get me wrong, like, you're trying to get me.
No, I'm not. No, I'm really not.
Either way, it's an incredible experience, which, honestly, if I could do again, I would. Like, I would do that 100%.
Do you have other moments like that, in your career or in your life that you kind of look back on fondly and like, yeah, man, that was freaking awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like, I mean, sure, we can sit here and tell stories all day, but I mean, I think, it's very rare that, a guy that, gets through selection and gets through, the pipeline and, does what, it becomes a good, operator. It's very rare that they don't walk away with those kind of stories and those feelings, right? Like everyone's going to have their opportunity. But, and the thing is when that opportunity, comes up, they need to perform. Yeah. Right. And they need to understand that, it's not about them, right? It's them, they're representing, the community, they're representing the beret, and it's everything they do that's positive is for, the community. So when that opportunity comes up, they need to be ready, right? And they just need to be on top of their game.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is that, sure, we have a little bit of notice whenever there's a hurricane ball hit, but we still don't really know definitively where it's going to hit, how bad it's going to be. And this is why, and the same thing with the guys when 9/11 happened and then all of a sudden we're ripping out the door. If you had gotten complacent and you had allowed yourself to get out of shape and that kind of stuff and not be proficient in your craft, your skills, like, what are you doing? And so that's one of the things is don't get complacent when you're sitting once you make it through. And you're sitting in this ham room, and you're like cruising social media or YouTube or whatever. Like, you need to continue to find ways to either stay proficient or just get better.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta be hungry, right?
Yeah,
like you gotta be hungry, and yeah, man. I don't think you ever want to be put in a position where you're gonna let the team down and let the command down. So
yeah, for sure. Let me check and see how long we've been going for because I want to be respectful of your time. Okay, we're good. So, I mean, really, especially because I don't want to get into the other stuff that you don't want to talk about.
You know what? It's important. If you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. I'll do my best to be professional about it.
Well, I mean, you obviously have some deep rooted feelings about it, which makes sense because for anybody that you guys don't know, Ivan was a cadre member, for 4.5 years?
Yeah.
4 years out there at INDOC at the time, and a much smaller footprint, I think is the probably the best way to put it, right? You had 16 instructors, something like that?
Yeah, I think we typically rolled between 10 to 12 instructors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still dealing with 120 to 150 students, cones at a time, and then whittling them down to who deserve to be there,
right? For
all intents and purposes, right? And now when you start looking at it, like, yes, things need to evolve, things need to change, right? Not everything does, though. And now you've got this an enormous footprint with some good people. Some of them are our friends, and they're, retired CCT, PJ, TAC-P, SEER, SR dudes, right? And it's a massive organization.
It is, yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, I think the amount of money that we pump into that place for the return, I don't agree with it. So I mean, and we've talked about this before. I don't think it's a bad process. I don't think that these are bad courses. And I can only speak for my community itself, but I just don't believe it's the right process and the right course for the pararescue community, right? Like I do agree. Like I think it's very important for these courses to be led by military members.
Yes.
Right. Like, and the prime examples that you gave, like, the Thailand, right? You had a master sergeant that stepped on the X, and then you had a senior airman following him. And that master sergeant was actually that senior airman's instructor, right? Through somewhere in the pipeline. I think that's super important, right? I think that, that there's accountability that's held on both sides, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's good that, you know, you have military instructors, right, that, you know, are talking the talk, and, you know, when they get back on the teams, they need to walk the walk, right? And they're being held accountable by these young guys that are just, you know, just
Ready for you to get out of the way.
Yeah,
Get out of the way,
exactly,
old
right?
man. I'm here to get in.
So, you know, I think there's a lot of touch points there. I think, you know, there's a lot of value, you know, you know, we're all the stories that we talk about are stories from INDOC and stories
Yeah,
about
they
about our instructors, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, nobody, you know, that's what we always talk about, you know, outside of like, you know, what we went through. But it's always, you know, everything revolves around like, you know, Mike Mullins or, you know, Dave Swan or, you know,
I
or,
feel Dave
you
Swan
know,
would
like,
come up.
you know, so it's, you know, and those are things that, you know, we carry with us, you know, for the rest of our careers, for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And, you know, those are things we talk about. It was a very special process. It was a very special course. I think, you know, I think a lot of people that, especially those that never been through it, they don't understand it. And, you know, the big thing is that, you know, it was incredibly respected by all the communities, right? No one ever questioned, you know, whether somebody deserved it or not when they graduated the indoctrination course. Like you know, it's like I said, it was a very respected course outside of, you know, the Pararescue combat control curriculum. You know, there's a reason why people didn't go, you know, try to be PJs and combat controllers, because they didn't want to like go through that course, plain and simple. But, you know, once again, just speaking for my community, I just feel like, you know, as everything's evolved, as everything has changed, it's the PJ community that's taken the brunt of, you know, those changes and stuff like that. And it's not for the good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, once again, I can go on and on about that, but at the end of the day, we have less instructors. It was, you know, it didn't cost, there's no way, you know, that we spent more than, you know, our budget was more than $250,000. You know, I don't know what we would spend with that, you know, other than brand new rocket fins, you know, Speedos and Gatorade powder, you know, and somehow, you know, we were still producing
The same number.
And, you know, whether it's the quality of the guy or, you know, not, you know, I don't, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. And I want to be clear. You're not criticizing the guys. You're not criticizing the instructors. You're saying the process right now, the way it is, it was probably better back then, is what you're saying. Not harder, not like, it's just they were asking. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I just want to make sure that I'm like, people don't think that you're attacking the new.
No. You know, and I by no means am I attacking them, right?
No,
you know, I do feel sorry that they won't get to know and share the experience that you and I have. That's what, you know, that's one of the big things that, you know, that they won't get to, like, you know, they won't be able to say that I'm an INDOC grad.
Yeah.
You know? Like, you know, the Rangers for the day to die, you know, through the, you know, centuries, they'll be like, I went to RIP.
Rangers are cool. Yep.
You know, the guys that went to Q course, I went through the Q course of Buds, right? But for some reason, you know, the Air Force continues to have this identity crisis where we have to feel like we have to change things, you know, and, you know, makes things so scientific that, you know, we're robbing from the young guys.
Yeah. And, you know, you're right. I'll do the name dropping here, but when you have outsiders of the community that don't understand why we need to do some of the things that we do inside the pool, with a ruck, in swamps, carrying logs, people don't understand that. And you have, you know, a General Slife, a General Bauerfeind, a General Edmondson that just want to start changing things just to change them because they feel like there's no need for that. And it goes beyond the physicality of it.
Yeah.
It is more mental than anything. We're just trying to test and figure out who somebody really is while giving them the confidence to go, look what you just survived and look what you just did. I mean, we were just talking about it when that switch flips and you're looking around and you got 10 other dudes around you and you're about to go do a hey-ho through mountains and you're like, yeah, I'm capable of doing this. And that's what we need the dudes to understand and feel and know. All right, I'm comfortable enough or I'm capable of doing this. And I know that you're not going to quit. You're not going to quit. You're not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. That's what we're testing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like the processes are different. And like I said, I don't expect, the big thing was, well, let's give it a couple of years. Let's see how the guys, when they get to the squadron, we'll see, if they're not good. Like that, I don't think that's a good way to judge it, right? Like, because that's saying like, we had a guy that went through the Q course. Well, wait, if he gets to the squadron, we'll see how he does. I mean, if you get a young guy that's fired up, that just wants to work and impress his leaders, like he's going to do whatever you want him to do, right? Like he's going to do great.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about, having, this, having something, the guys go through that special that, that I know that you went through, that I know he went through, this, it's that touch point, that connective tissue that, is what the community is.
Yeah.
And, we can't continue to try to keep changing things and trying to find things better. If you want to improve upon something, yeah, man, that by all means, right? Everybody does that. But like when you take something away that works, that's just dumb.
Yeah.
Like that's just dumb. Especially when we're pouring the amount of money that's going into these courses, it's absurd.
Yeah.
And then, and then trying to change the environment that, these guys have to perform in, that, that's not how that rule works, right?
Yeah.
Like you get what you get and you better perform.
Yeah. One of the things that the aspects of it, and again, I haven't actually been back to see things since you and I did that kind of trip with all the other chiefs and stuff like that back there. But the one thing that I saw during that trip, and again, I don't know if they're still doing it or not, but there was a, 26-day portion or whatever, where it was all about the individual instead of the teamwork. So you were a number, which is fine. I'll be a number, right? But I wasn't allowed to, like, if you were falling behind on ruck, I wasn't allowed to go back with you and like, all right, come on, and motivate you and help you out, just like you weren't allowed to. It was every man for himself, which I don't like, because I need somebody that's going to recognize when I'm hurting and pick up my slack.
Yeah.
I need that. And because there's operationally, or even just in normal day life, there are going to be times where I'm not operating 100%. And I need somebody to recognize that and then step in and help out and pick up my slack.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
There's times where, like, if you got more fuel in the tank, like, you should be helping out, right?
Yeah.
You should be trying to find work. And nothing we do, even if you're the last man standing, man, nothing we do is about the individual.
Yeah.
I get it, man. Like, I know that, that's how, specific selections are done. But that's for later. Like, we're trying to find the individual. Like we're trying to find, who the right guy is. And once again, that's not done by the instructors, right? That's just done by the design of the course. And I think a lot of, there was a lot of, people thought, that instructors were being malicious, the indoctrination course, because it never graduated large numbers, was always, under the magnifying glass. Right. And I think, there's a lot of, I think for people that fail out of the course, like myself, right, or, like other people that, that it's very easy to point fingers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. But then when you see a 17-year-old, 120-pound kid somehow graduate that, it puts things in perspective. Right. Like, so there's, once again, especially being, an instructor, like I could tell you that, the instructors that were always down there were incredibly professional. And man, they wanted people to graduate, right? The course itself is what, does what it does. That, that's what, and makes people leave or makes them stay. So
cool. And when you're a student, it's chaotic. Like, and it's meant to be.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I'm getting a smoke session. Well, you think that, hey, no matter what I do, I can't get it right. Well, actually, that was a programmed smoke session.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was all planned. It was this big Excel spreadsheet, and hey, at 2:00, go out there and freaking smoke those dudes. Find something to take apart and freaking,
Well, and not only that, I mean, we'll be honest. There's times where, things have to be done.
Yeah.
That aren't on the schedule, right? If the team needs to be punished for something they're doing incorrectly, that's okay. That's what we do to our children. These are not children, right? These are, young, they're kids, but they're, they want to become men, right? it's okay to punish them. It's okay that, they want to go into something that's special. They want to go into special operations, right? Special operations. So it's okay for them to be punished. Like that's the world we live in. If you do bad things or you make bad decisions, when you're downrange, bad things are going to happen. So you got to figure out a way to get around it.
So what you're talking about right now is so funny because it takes you back to, within the last month, I released a reel with a recruiter that said, and it's still getting comments to this day. And I asked the recruiter, hey, what do you think about parents showing up with their 18-year-old to the recruiters? And she was like, well, I try not to judge. I'll take parents in and that kind of stuff. And that's fine. Whereas other recruiters were like, yeah, dude, I can't talk to you kind of thing. And the feedback I was getting is parents should be going because these recruiters lie and you must not have come from a tight family because your parents would have gone with you. And so I said this to Trent and Aaron, and they were like, well, who's telling you that? Who's commenting on this? And it turns out that it's parents.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, if you go to a job and I don't forget what company you're working for, but if a 18-year-old came to your company and wanted to interview and brought his parents along, what would that hiring manager go what?
That's kind of tough. So yeah, then, so that's kind of, because, when I was 17, I went to a army recruiter to join the Guard. Right. And when I went home and told my dad, yeah, exactly. It was one of those situations. And, he had to do what he had to do to get me out of that. I'm
not telling you one way or the other. I'm just saying, if we're starting to talk about training and punishing grown men because they mess up, we have to allow them to fail. We also have to, now that's not saying that I, as an 18-year-old, I don't go to a recruiter, get some information, ask some questions, and then bounce them off my parents or bounce them off a family member or friend that happens to be in the military. That's different. You should be doing that.
Right.
But you got to also think, when people say, hey, these recruiters lie, yeah, I'm sure some of them do, right? The percentage is definitely not zero. But when you're given so much information and you still have an 18-year-old brain kind of thing, maybe, just maybe, you misinterpret something or you're not getting the full picture.
Well, I think that's where I think, I would say, I would say myself, I would want to go, right? Just to ensure that my son, my kids aren't,
right,
jumping at an opportunity. It's well, Hunter, you don't really understand what he's saying. We can go both ways on that. To be honest, I would make sure I'm there with my son.
Okay.
Or my daughter or whatever.
The funny part about it is that out of everything that I have ever said on this podcast in 5 years, 6 years, this has been the most controversial thing that people are just fuck this guy. And I'm I don't think it's that controversial, but whatever.
Yeah. I think, kids will, and I don't use others. We're kids. We're kids, man. At that age. I think, some people, once again, even, just joining the Air Force, I came into, I knew I wanted to be a PJ. I couldn't get, I couldn't get it on my contract. Yeah. So I was like, you know what, just sign me up for, I was going to do some computer jobs, which thank God to this day,
you don't belong,
I got lucky.
You don't belong
exactly
behind a computer.
So, I would not want my kid to make the same mistake, just because he's all fired up or, he wants to go do something specific. What I would say is I don't think there's any place for that, in when a kid wants to, do joint special operations.
Yeah.
There's just a point where hey, you step over this line, this is something different.
Yep.
You need to know what you're getting into. And there's no place for your parents. If you want to be something special, then just realize, things are done differently here.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of it, right? Mm-hmm. Anywhere in any other country, look at how, their special operations are treated or things they have to do, and, when we talk about peer on peer, and, tough people need to be tough to do tough things.
Yep.
So, it's just the nature of what we want to do and what we've decided to do.
Dude, I can't follow that up. Come on, man. All right. Well, last thing I'll do then before we close this out is, and you've probably given advice before, but since we're talking about, those new recruits and cones and all that kind of stuff, what kind of advice would you give to folks that are interested in being a PJ?
I don't have a lot of advice.
Yeah.
I would just tell them to enjoy the ride. You should want it to be tough. You should want it to be hard, right? There's going to be times where you're going to wish it wasn't as tough and wasn't as hard, but that's what you should want, right? Because that's what makes you different, right? Not everybody can do tough things or hard things. But at the end of the day, I will, I tell guys this all the time: don't chase the unicorn. If it's meant to come, it'll come. Maybe it's easy for, guys like you and I to say it, give people that advice.
I know.
But I mean, it's just, at least it's from, hearing it from an old guy, just trust this, right?
Yeah.
Just if it's meant to happen, it'll happen, and you don't want to go through your career just, being upset.
Yeah.
Especially when, like I said, man, you get to do some pretty cool things and you have a really cool job. You get to hang out with your best friends. You get to do, once again, things that 99% of the world don't get to do and see. And, sometimes those things are bad, you and I have seen we've seen the ugly side, right? We've seen the ugly world, or how, ugly the world can be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of people don't get to experience that, right? And, we can apply those things to our day-to-day lives and understand that, hey, man, sure, I just got in a car accident, man, but I'm fine, man. Life's good. Everybody's fine, just going to keep moving on, so, just enjoy the ride, enjoy what you got, go to school, as soon as you finish your upgrades, man, get yourself at school and start getting ready, for your next career. Cause you never know when that's gonna, if that's gonna get forced down your throat, or, if you need to prep yourself for, 26 years later.
Yeah. And being forced down your throat means not like, hey, I'm just all of a sudden getting out. It means, hey, you got injured or you got in an accident or something like that happened.
Yeah.
And hey, it was unexpected. You thought you were going to do 20 years or whatever it is. And all of a sudden a jumping thing went bad and that's it.
And, 100%. And then just to be flexible, right? We like to say, I knew what I was signing up for, or, my spouse knew what she was signing. You guys don't know what you're signing up for. You don't. So, just be flexible, take care of your family, and, just try to make the right decisions. And never quit.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it.
Well, appreciate you joining us.
Yeah,
man.
Easy, man.
Great to see you.
You as well.
So for everybody out there, don't forget hardymedia.net if you are in Vegas and you need a studio. And also do us a favor and please support the Pararescue Association and the foundation and any of the Air Force Special Warfare foundations and associations. But if you are interested in checking out the Pararescue Rodeo and all the events that are happening, it is happening in June. Go to pjrodeo.com. It's all happening here in Vegas at the South Point Hotel and Casino. And it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to attending. I kind of wish I was competing, really, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if they let the old red hats.
Yeah.
do it.
Well, we've talked about it, but, I wonder how long, some of us would last, but, last thing I'm saying is once again, you can, for those that are interested in sponsoring, the information will be on the pjrodeo.com website. If you fish around, you'll come across the sponsor registration portion. There's different packages, you don't have to be a high level sponsor, anything goes a long way. And it can be from, local businesses, small mom and pop businesses, to large organizations, Albertson. It doesn't have to be tied to a military or tactical, right? Like I said, grocery stores, anybody that's interested in supporting, please do. And please check out the website.
Absolutely. All right. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we're out here. Later.